What's up guys, welcome back. We're back working on the Hilux. It's another new day. Just finished up on the Screamer, the new Screamer. Pretty happy with it. I was gonna have to use a little bit of the old material from the old Screamer anyway because I don't have a spare flange to make a completely new one. So I decided to utilize just a little bit of the bend that was already there just to get this radius a little bit tighter again. So yeah, I'll show you how it sits in a minute when I get it in the car. And I think it's pretty good as far as being as discreet as you possibly could be on this particular vehicle. It actually might still be a little bit before I get it on the car because I've got to pull the gate back off and check what spring's in it. Alright, so I checked the spring in the gate and it looks like it's an 11-pound spring, which should be perfect for us. And I did find another bolt and nut to use for this clamp because obviously it had gone lost and someone was just using this with 2 washers, which was very, how you going? I'm surprised it even stayed on there. So that's sorted, that's sorted, that's sorted. So you can pretty much probably go back in the car now. Just get it. This is what it looks like in the car. So as you can see from the front, it's pretty hard to see. It's a lot more discreet than where it was coming out right here before. So you know, you can see obviously that it turns around, but after that, who knows? The only place you can really see it from is if you really get right over here and look at the right angle. You can see it over there. But I mean, as far as this vehicle goes, it's pretty hard to sort of keep it hidden and discreet, so I think it's about as best as it can be. And that's what it looks like there. Comes out of the gate there, comes around, points down there. Obviously the dump pipe, once it's in there, that is all sort of up there and it won't contact that at all. So, and it just points sort of straight at the tail shaft, which shouldn't be an issue. You can't see it from this side. You can't see it from there. It's about as good as I think I can get it in this vehicle with this. I've got to say, I don't even reckon if I started from scratch that I could design a manifold with a worse gate position than this thing. It is an absolute pain in the ass, but anyway, fingers crossed, shouldn't have to get at it anymore. I've confirmed the spring, everything's on there, should be right. So anyway, I'll tighten that all up. Get my O2 bung in the dump pipe and put the O2 sensor in, make sure this wiring gonna be long enough to reach, but looking at that, it comes from up there, it should be long as to put it anywhere. And then put it all back together and Bob's Yarny. I did receive today a heap of stuff that I was waiting for the intake side of this thing, which is awesome. However, one of the big things is welding a cast elbow to the front of the housing of the turbo, which I am just still not good enough with Ali to confidently do that. Rex is at Power Cruise this weekend at the moment. Today's Friday, but he won't be back till Monday, so I'm gonna get Rex to do that when he gets back. So that'll hold us off sort of getting it sorted, but I'd rather wait for Rex to get back and get him to do it just because it's gonna be a much better finish. You know, if it was my car, I wouldn't care, but I don't want to be practicing my alley. It's not at a point, it's not far enough along that I'd confidently do it on someone else's car, the alley welding, so it can wait. Righto guys, we're back again. The biggest thing I wanted to do today was get the O2 bung in the dump pipe, which I've gone to do, and turns out we don't have any stainless O2 bungs left, so not that I can find anyway. Rex isn't here at the moment, he's at Power Cruise, but my assumption at the moment is I think he might have used the last of them in the tonner, which is a bit of a pain, so I can't do that, which sucks. But anyway, I thought I'd go on with what I need to get this turbo fitted now that we've got the fittings and stuff that I need. First point of call was to get this welded up, our new drain. Because of where it is on the turbo and where it sits, it's something that was really hard to mock up and get an idea of. So I pretty much just had to tack it and take a gamble, and it paid off. I got it first hit, it was right. The turbo goes straight in, and this jump goes, I'll show you when I put it in the car, but yeah, this drain works perfectly. So I just welded that up. Both of these materials are really old and dirty, which made for a very hard thing to weld, but it's gonna do fine for a turbo drain. And that should be plenty big enough for a ball bearing turbo as a drain. I can't fit any bigger tube between the runners anyway, so that's how it's going to be. So I'll wait for that to cool off a bit. I'll clean that up with a bottle brush, and then I'll give it a lick of paint, and then you can go on the turbo and go in. Here it is, the cast elbow. So I do need to weld that onto there, or get it welded onto there. As far as the actual intake goes for now, we just got our 4-inch bend and a pod filter. Bob's Yarny, easy done. And I've also got a new silicone bend to suit the 2-inch cast elbow to the existing cooler piping here. So those are our little blanking caps. Pretty awesome little things. We keep lots of these in stock in all different sizes. But anyway, so that's that. These are our fittings. We've got a AN4 to AN6 adapter for the feed. And these are our 2 water fittings. I've got one straight and one right angle to make this all work. Alright, that's more or less how it's going to be. So we got out of the top one, that's going to stay nice and low. I'm going to try and keep that nice and low. Once the intake's actually on there, it'll sort of just sit against the intake like so. And just try and keep it as low as possible. Comes over the top into the right angle. Might put a little bit of heat sleeve right there at the fitting. I don't know, maybe not. Shouldn't be too bad there, and it is 400 series hose. So then out the other side, out of the straight, which then goes back down to the one at the water pump down there. And that'll just tie up out of the way up here. And that's going to be our water circuit for the turbo, which is easy enough. Feed will go straight back on where it was with the adapter fitting. Bob's Yarny, and we'll sort the drain out. Easy as that. Woo-wee! Look at that. So it's still only just mocked up for now, obviously, until I've got that cast elbow on the turbo housing. But this is what the engine bay is going to be, as you can see. Got the dump pipe in there. Obviously, that's going to have to come back out for me to weld in when I get one too. Absolute pain. But yeah, that's more or less it. I'm sort of debating whether or not I'll put another bit of hose in here to seal these up for him. And I'm thinking about just using this and just making a breather, sort of just simple and easy and cheap, so it doesn't cost him any money really. Is just put some fire sleeving or heat sleeving over just a bit of hose that goes onto that nipple over the dump pipe so that it doesn't get damaged over the top. And just run it straight across the side of that guard behind the fuse box, and I can just drill a hole in the end of the pod filter and put a grommet in it and just run it into the grommet, just as far as a breather goes is what I'm thinking there, but I'll think about that anyway. But anyway, that's pretty much more or less what it's going to look like all finished up. And that's what we're dealing with underneath for now. So you can see how much clearance there is from the screamer to the actual exhaust. Heaps of room to get this in and out. You don't have to remove the screamer. Oh, look at that. Man, am I stoked with this. Anyway, that's pretty much it. Still a little bit to do, which I'll continue doing on Monday. But once it's all back in there and I'm happy with it, our tail shaft will go in. I think I already explained it, but we have this convenient tail shaft spacer which we bought back when we did the blue twin turboed 1J Hilux. So we purchased this spacer because we thought we would need it when we did the R150F conversion from the G52. As it turned out, because of another Hilux that the owner had, which was a single cab one that was, can't remember, one of them was IFS, one of them wasn't. However it ended up, we basically ended up with the tail shaft that was long enough that it worked. We didn't need the spacer. And conveniently enough, the spacer fits this thing perfectly. And it's going to work perfectly with the stock tail shaft, just so the stock tail shaft can go back in, full drive gets retained. How easy is that? So yeah, I'll do a little bit of heat protection on those lines and stuff, and that comes back out as well. But and I've got to sort out the fuel pump wiring back here too. I'm going to sort that out as well, get it up off the exhaust. But apart from that, we are getting to the pointy end of this thing as far as the fab work goes. Alright guys, back here today. We've got Rex back today as well, so you can weld on our elbow for us. The owner also, I was talking to him last night, and he actually informed me that there's not even a battery tray or anything in this. So, you know, I have to buy a new battery anyway, so I'm going to sort out a battery tray and a proper hold down for him and get that sorted out for him and fix some of this wiring as I'm going. I'm going to have to cut the housing back a little bit because I can't just weld the elbow on the end of the housing. It's still too close to the guard, so I'm going to have to cut this back a bit, and I'm going to cut it on a little bit of an angle so I can get this nice and straight. So we're giving the housings a chop. We're ready to weld that on, so Rex is just going to do a little bit of practicing, make sure we've got the settings on the welder right for what we want to do, and see if we can weld this thing. Oh yeah, boy. Hell yeah, boy. Alright, we are looking the goods. I've test fitted it, got it clocked right, locked up. So with that all done, I got the joiner cut properly to a way that it's going to work, and pretty much we are now ready to start actually getting this thing together. So I'll start cleaning up these flanges, getting our gaskets ready, start actually get this thing together properly. Alright, so I went to start putting it together and realised that I forgot to paint this, and it's just raw steel, so it needs to be sealed. So I painted that with some of our high heat clear, so that it's just sealed up. So while I was waiting for that to dry, I got some heat protection sorted under here. I rerouted one of the handbrake cables so that it's out of the way a bit more. Whoever put this torsion bar in put it on the wrong side of the cable, so I fixed a little bit of that, and I'm pretty happy with all that now. And pretty happy for this exhaust to go back together. Going to leave the front drive shaft out for now because I still have to put the O2 bung in the dump pipe, which is going to be in the way of. So I'll wait until I get those fittings back here. Sorry guys, Rex is tuning. I'm trying to talk while Rex is tuning. So I'll wait until we get those fittings. I ordered them today. Hopefully they get here later on this week. And then I'll get that O2 bung in the dump pipe, get it all back together, and then get the front drive shaft back in it. But between now and then I should be able to get it running and tune it, and just leave it in open loop and just worry about doing closed loop after I get that O2 bung. So shouldn't be a problem. So now we can finally go back together. Yeah. Alright guys, so for the most part we're together. I am missing a reducer that I actually need for the drain, which I didn't realise we're out of stock of, so that's another thing that I'll have to order. But apart from that, it is together. But it does mean it's going to hold us up. We can't get it running yet, but that's alright because it gives me a chance to sort of go over and fix a few other things. Like this here is actually the radiator overflow, and it is plumbed all the way along the firewall there, all the way down the other side, all the way up to the radiator cap. But I have no idea why on earth they did that. Makes no sense to me. Righto guys, bit more progress. So we moved the radiator overflow bottle from its cooked location up there where it was to down here. So that's a much nicer little route for that. Straight down there into our overflow, which is right there. How much better is that? Also added a catch can, just one that I had out the back for now. Just, I'll never use it, one that came off a car. So it's got some sort of breathing. My plan was to run a catch can. I thought I had a different one, but I can't find it. My plan was to run one into there and then this one into the intake so that it would actually breathe the way it should do. My problem with that is that this came off a car that someone had drilled holes in, because they were both of these hoses were to the rocker cover on the other car that it came out of, and this is where they were letting it breathe. So my problem with that is if I put that into the intake, it's just going to suck unfiltered air through them holes through this catch can into the intake, which I don't want. So for now I'm just going to leave it down here. I've just poked it through the guard out of the way, so it's basically just a catch can that vents to Atmo at the moment. But at least it's all there, and if you ever want to just buy one of them cheap, you know, those D1 spec catch cans off eBay or whatever, and literally just replace that and just drill a hole in the end of the pod filter and run that hose into the pod filter. Bob's Yarny. Catch can setup done. So anyway, I added that just so that this went somewhere. As I talked to you, I had thought about just running that straight around into this pod filter, but I just don't know what the condition of this engine is, and I don't know how much it's going to want to spit out the overflow of the catch can. So I don't really want to run it straight into the pod filter until we knew that, and that's a better way to do it anyway. So anyway, as far as I'm concerned, you can just have that. It's just something I was never going to use. I just wanted to set it up for him so it's in here, and yeah, he can replace it whenever he wants. Fixed up the plumbing of the Mac valve and fixed a few other little things up. Got a battery tray in here that we had in stock, which is going to work. I've ordered a battery that's going to be the right dimensions. Had to get one that was quite short so that it would fit here, but it should be fine. It's 500 crank amps, so it should be plenty for this thing. So that's pretty much where we're at. Got a little bit more tidy up to do of just zip tying back lines and stuff, and I'll have a quick run through this wiring and make sure it's all right. But wiring's one of those things I don't want to dive into because it opens a can of worms. You know, like I said, we're working to a bit of a budget. I'm not going to go throwing hours and hours at trying to tidy up wiring stuff because it's not my field, and it's sort of money throwing away. So as long as it's working and I can continue with what I've got to do, I'll leave the wiring for now, but I'm pretty happy with everything I've done over here. This thing's looking 10 times better than when it got here, which is awesome. But there's still a fair bit to go. Like, none of these coil packs are actually bolted down. All of them are just sitting there. Yeah, it's a bit of a shit show, so there's a few things to do there. But anyway, for now I'll lift it up. Got to get this drain sorted. So the fitting that I needed for the drain that I thought we didn't have in stock, turns out Rex hadn't actually used it yet. It was just sitting in the tonner. So I've got it here to get it happening. So that it wouldn't fucking get used. Yeah, so Rex just hit it so that I wouldn't use it. So for now, to get this thing happening, I've got that, so I can finish the turbo drain when I lift this up, finish the wiring for the fuel pump, and then we should be pretty much ready to hit the key. So yeah, I can actually use that. We'll order another one to replace Rex's, but at least it allows us to keep going with this thing. Alrighty, that's our turbo drain sorted. Phew. Last thing really is just to fix up this wiring for the fuel pump. And the owner let me know last night that he forgot to let me know when he dropped it off. He reckons that it does have a fuel leak somewhere. So we'll fix this wiring for the pump so we can get the fuel pressurized and then trace down this leak, I suppose. Alright, so I fixed up all this wiring here, tied up these old lines out of the way, just kept everything out of the way really, kept everything off the exhaust. I don't want to delete all these lines and stuff because this whole rear mount condenser setup, there's no reason it won't work as long as it's done properly. So I want to leave all this back here. I've just sealed them lines up. But basically if he ever decides one day that he wants AC and he's got the budget for it, someone could easily work out how to do this remote condenser setup properly and make it all work. So I'll leave them there. But yeah, pretty much ready now to power this thing up. So we've got this powered up. The fuel pump is hardwired to a switch. Don't ask me why. Like I said, a lot of the wiring in this car I think needs a lot of attention. My goal is that when it leaves here, that is hopefully the last thing that needs attention. My goal is that it can leave here and he can take it to an auto sparky and get the wiring sorted, and then it will be alright after that. That's my goal. But anyway, got the pump going, can't see any leaks, which is good. So I don't know what the go is there. He thought there was a leak, but I can't seem to find any leaks, so that's fine. Did find, however, huge big vacuum leak, this thing. The IAC, obviously they haven't plumbed it up to anything, but they left it open, and obviously it's probably doing what it's supposed to and it's sucking even air, but seems to run happy enough when you block it off. So I've decided just to block it for now, and if we need to, we'll chase it up later. But with Rex's finger in this thing, it just started up and purred away. So we'll block that up. We'll give this another kick in the guts, and it sounds pretty good. Alright, so with the bumhole plugged, she should just purr. You think? Oh, look at that. Like a sewing machine. Oh. Might need a bit of an idle up. Alright, so we can still get it to run, but it still wants to die after a few sort of seconds. Gave it a little bit more fuel in the map and it seemed to like it, but it still stumbles and you can get it to rev up a little bit, but it starts backfiring and carrying on. So we really need some data. We really need some O2. We really need to see what's going on as far as the fueling. So without being able to put the wideband into the dump pipe yet, the next best solution I have is that the cats we use have an O2 port on them. They just come with an O2 port for a, you know, it's designed for when you want to have two O2s, one pre and one post cat. So for now, I'm going to chuck the sensor in post cat in that port. Just pull the bung out, chuck the sensor in, all good. There should be heaps of length on this wire to get it to back here into this port, and that'll at least give us some data at the moment to get this thing to run and idle properly and see what the hell's going on. Sometimes I'm glad I'm not an idiot. Anyway, let's get this back down so we can see what the wideband's doing and try and get this freaking thing running properly. So it's still running terribly, but it runs. So my assumption is I'm pretty sure nothing has really been fixed in the tunes since it was 2.5 litre. So I'm pretty sure the last guy who owned it before the guy who owns it now bought it with a knocking 1J in it, put a 2J bottom end in it, and put it all back together. I'm pretty sure nothing's been touched in the tune, which is why it wanted so much more fuel, and why so much is, yeah, it's just running like crap. So it's just going to take a fair bit of tuning is all it is, I think, I hope. So one thing I have decided to do is to actually put some heat sleeving over this throttle cable as well. I thought it might be alright if I just tied it on top of that oil line and just had that little bit of protection, but I think it's going to be safest to actually put some heat sleeving over that too. It's just too close to that housing, and we know how hot that shit gets. So. I'm also just going to zip tie around here to keep this top hose just away from that cam gear a bit. It's just a little bit too close for comfort. It's not super tidy, but it's about the only thing we can do for now. We'll just see how that goes. Alright guys, I managed to get a bit of a chance this afternoon just to actually get this on the dyno and just do some initial, just running up in steady state. Obviously not getting anywhere towards power tune or anything yet, but just wanted to run it up just to see what sort of issues we might come across. And to my surprise, These fans are actually not doing too bad at actually keeping this thing cool, or at a decent temperature. They actually seem to be working okay, so I'm very surprised about that. I was not expecting that. I was expecting this thing to be nearly impossible to keep cool. Annoyingly though, we do seem to have a front main and a rear main leak, which is frustrating as hell and annoying. Anyway, it's frustrating and as annoying as both these leaks are. They're not going to stop us from what we've got to do. We can still finish what we've got to do. And I'm not sure that the owner's going to be super keen to pay us to pull the engine out just to fix those sorts of leaks. So that's sort of, you're talking big dollars there and lots of labour. So yeah, that's annoying. But anyway, apart from that, everything's going well. Still waiting on a few things for next week, so we probably won't get to actual full power on till next week, but initially it is all looking pretty good and pretty awesome. And the turbo is starting to spool up around 2000 RPM. We're starting to hear a little bit of spool, so keen to see how it actually goes once we start getting some full flat foot into it. But so far it's looking good and I'm stoked with it. So righto guys, back into the Hilux. Darcy, you're doing a few hours helping us out while we're flat out, as you can see. But got Darcy to rip that dump pipe off, chuck the O2 bung in it where I wanted it. Finally got our O2 bungs here, so got that up there. So that's where the O2 sensor is going to be going now. So I'll move it down from where it is behind the cat, and we'll move it up to here. I already checked before, there's heaps of length on the wire, so that's all good. We'll put the bung back in the cat. And Darcy's just sorting out the new battery. This is the sort of the shortest battery that I can get. It's still 500 cranking amps, which should be plenty for this J. So it's the shortest one I can get, which is going to fit there quite nice. It did have a battery tray in there, but we decided it's actually probably going to be better off mounting it without the tray, just on the existing sort of platform for a battery. So plenty of height there, plenty to go fit under the bonnet. So that's that pretty much sorted. This dump pipe can go back in, and then front tail shaft can go back in, and we can pretty much look at getting this thing on the dyno tomorrow is the plan. Get it finished off. So I'll change these plugs and actually bolt these coil packs down this time as well. And yeah, happy days. Happy days. Rightio guys, so we're getting along. I've changed the plugs, put a set of our plugs in, the ones I want. I've got the old plugs out. I actually found some button head screws. Rex found some button head screws to actually bolt the coil packs down, so they're all bolted down now, which is, you know, nice as well. I ended up putting some heat sleeving on the throttle cable. As you can see, dump pipes back in with our new O2 location there. Darcy's just getting the front drive shaft in at the moment, the front tail shaft, to get it all sorted. We did break the battery hold down that we had, but that's alright because I bought the battery hold down before the battery had arrived, and I sort of just picked the one that I sort of guessed would be best suited. But there's actually another one at the shop which will fit this battery a lot better, so we'll get that tomorrow, and the battery will just hold down exactly where it is, and that's going to be all fine. And Darcy got in as well. We took out the OEM oil pressure sensor that was in there and put our new Haltech one in there, and the loom already had the plug, it just plugged straight in. So now we'll actually have protection for oil pressure in the ECU and everything else, which is awesome. So this thing's really on the final stretch. Pretty much the last thing left to do is just an oil service. Just dump the oil, change the filter, and it's ready to hit the dyno and get finished up, get the tune actually finished. And then she'll be ready to go back home and be enjoyed. Be very enjoyed. So much better car leaving here than when it got here, which is the aim of the game. All right, all serviced, ready and rearing to go. We're ready to hit the dyno, and then all we got to do is put our battery hold down on tomorrow, and this is how it is. Replace the hose clamps here with some T-bolts. I actually ordered some T-bolt clamps for 4-inch, which I've been waiting on, which got here, so that's just a little bit neater. But yeah, happy flapping days. Things ready and rearing to go. So, all right, guys, it's a lovely rainy day here, which is always nervous for dyno because of the power situation here. But anyway, we're ready to go on the dyno. Let's get it. Let's see what we can do with this big old girl. Obviously, not going to be pushing it too hard, as we talked about. BBT IGE bottom end, not super strong. The other thing is, you know, 4-wheel drive, often going to see the beach. Potentially going to be caught somewhere where you can't potentially get really good fuel, etc. There are a lot of things when we're doing a 4-wheel drive that we try and make sure we leave it fairly conservative, so that if you ever get stuck in some of these situations where the thing gets super hot or you haven't got access to really good fuel, that it's going to be all safe still. So that's where we're at, that's what we're doing. Guys, happy days. We had a few traction issues to start with, but it come good after the tyres got a bit of heat in them, and I adjusted the straps enough to get it to strap down, but it's come pretty good. Just fiddling a bit with the idle. She breathes pretty heavy. See, she's breathing pretty heavy. Bit of blow by, bit of ring gap. This is where we ended up anyway. So 316, thing wants to keep going, as you can see. Yeah, it's freaking awesome. I was revving it out to about 6200, and yeah, I don't particularly want to rev it too much harder than that, honestly. I didn't particularly want to even make that much power, but that's just where we ended up on gate pressure with, you know, decent enough timing. I definitely, like I said, I didn't go aggressive with the timing. The timing's not aggressive at all, but also, you don't want to have it too retarded either, because then you start running into issues with EGTs getting too high, so things start to get too hot. You know, you run into other problems with it too retarded as well. So timing's just in a nice area that's going to work, and the thing's pretty happy there. So that's pretty much the end of the Hilux. That's the big girl. So after all this time being broken off the road, you know, all this stuff happening, she's finally got a new exhaust and she's sorted out and finally tuned, and decent hot side. This turbo's not doing too bad. It's coming on 3000 RPMs when it's really still sort of coming on, which for a T4 footprinted turbo, I'm pretty impressed with. I definitely reckon that you couldn't get much better as far as a T4 turbo goes for this thing, so stoked with that. But yeah, this thing with the, you know, with the non-VVTi bottom end under it, or even a GTE bottom end, this thing could be an absolute menace. I think even at this sort of power level, it's going to be a menace, but like I said to you guys, I don't particularly want to push it that much further than that. It's going to be freaking wicked the way it is. They're not very heavy, and as you can see, you got 33-inch sort of muddies. The yeah, she's it's going to be a handful. It's going to be a handful as it is, so I think it's going to be fine. But I'm happy with that. Happy days. Just got to do a bit of work on the cold start over the next 2 days, and then it's off to home. So that's going to be it for the Hilux. Thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed, and tune in for the next one. Peace out. See you. Bye.